Welcome to the Wingmen Show. My name is Drew Brown, and my wingman, my man, the number one guy I know, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, brother? Welcome to the Wingmen Show, where we're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingmen Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown. My wingman, my friend, the guy who watches my six is my main man, Dr. Paul Thompson. How are you, brother Paul?
Well, Commander Drew, it's good to see you. I'm doing very, very well today. You look very chipper and happy. I like your get up. I really like that gold wingman. That gold and black goes together really nice.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Well, as you know, we're wrapping up this little section of Who in the Hell Are the Wingmen Anyway? And it's been great. I'll tell you what, just going through our lives together. But let's start off with a quote of the day. And before I say the quote of the day, the reason we start off with a quote is because my dad came up with the second most famous quote in the world, which is float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He trained Ali for his whole career. And so I figured for my father's legacy, I would keep that quote thing going. So I'm going to give you one of the quotes that I gave to my kids growing up so they can be successful. And it says, early to bed, early to rise, work all day and advertise. Early to bed, early to rise, work all day and advertise. And Ted Turner is the person who made up that quote. Now, Dr. Paul, you have a quote also, don't you?
I do have a quote, and it's a quote I thought my mother came up with, and it goes like this: Many hands make light work. However, I find she didn't make that up. It actually comes from like the 16th century, but she used to say it all the time, from the time I was little. So I figured she did it. So it's not float like a butterfly, sing like a bee, but many hands make light work. Basically, if we cooperate and work together, you can get more things done with a good team of cooperative people than with a bunch of combatants. And that makes a lot of sense, either around the house or on a team or in a military unit or on the job.
Very good. And my early to bed, early to rise, work all day and advertise means hard work is what's going to get you through. But don't forget to let people know what you've done. And if nobody pats you on the back, you pat your own damn self on the back. But don't go unnoticed. And that's how you become successful. Well, this show is the culmination of our lives. And it's a very important show because I'm going to start off asking you this, Dr. Paul. As a young man, what were your goals and have you reached your goals?
Yeah, my goal as a young man, I'm thinking in the teenage years, I was pretty much going along with the program. My goal was to really get through school. That was my primary job. I had side job too, but my primary job was to get the education that so many people had fought for years well before I was born. Had the opportunity, and our primary mission, I'd say my whole group, was to get through school, period, without any prompting from school authorities. You're expected to do that, and the community was like that, as I recall. It's a little different today. It's a lot different today, but that was our job. I want to get through school and do something, and I wasn't quite sure what it was for quite a while until one day at the age of 18, headed to University of Pittsburgh after I got accepted. There was like an orientation day or weekend, and they were paying for it. You just had to get out there, and it would cost nothing to do that. And it was when I was getting on the airplane. I hadn't been on an airplane for years. I got this strange feeling, and the hook was set right there, unexpected. How about you?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. You know, I grew up in the projects of New York City, Carver Projects, 102nd between Park and Madison in Manhattan. And I won't forget this day, but I found out that you remember Adam West from Batman?
Yeah, I got a picture with me. I'll send it to you. I got a picture with him, actually. I met him.
Great. Well, I heard that Adam West was making $50,000 a week to do Batman. And back then, that was millions of dollars in my mind. And I remember asking God, can I make $1,000 a week and travel all over the world? I remember asking that specifically. And you're asking what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be rich and famous, like most people. And I soon found out that being rich and famous is not the goal to have. But that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. And school was not a goal for me because there was no choice of me going to school. There was no choice of me getting a college education. And I think that that's a very big part of my life, that my parents never gave me a choice about my education. So it was just something I wanted to do. But as a dumb little kid, I wanted to be rich and famous. And
Okay.
to be honest with you, I kind of achieved that. And being famous was the worst part. So let me ask you this. You are now retired, you're a millionaire, you have enough money for the rest of your life. What is your feeling about retirement? You've worked all your life, you've gone to school most of your life, you're still learning in a learning process. But
Right.
what was retirement like?
Retirement for me was weird. I thought about it for a while leading up to it, but the biggest thing that I was concerned about was, an early demise, because I had noticed that, in our group, there were a lot of people that retired, and within 24 months were deceased, and that was when the age was 60. The retirement age policy was 60, officially 60, and there I noticed a number of people were passing away at the ripe old age of 62. When they changed the age to 65, I noticed a similar pattern. A lot of people died at 67. Huh. I don't know what they were doing. In some cases, I didn't know them well at all. I just got a notification. But I thought, you got to be active. So for me, I'm actually some ways more active now than I was when I was working. I think that has something to do with it. I hope that extends my longevity. But I think sitting around is a path to death. Something I remember an old coach told me: when you retire, you're just getting ready to die. I heard that when I think I was in high school, just listening, and he might have been 40 years old. But a lot of people used to kind of keel over at about 40. When you were 40, you were considered like a senior citizen and faded away. So I try to stay active. I think that's a big part of it. So retirement for me is not just sitting around doing nothing, watching Gunsmoke all day. Gunsmoke was an old Western we grew up with. No, watching TV all day, I gotta do something with my mind and my body. What is retirement for you? Now you're a pilot, you did a lot of flight planning. How long did you start planning for retirement before you retired?
I don't know if I planned on my big goal was not to be subservient to anybody, the government or anybody else, that I could take care of myself. When I was growing up, I saw both parents. They didn't have much money as they got older and older, and especially my dad. I felt so bad for him because he gave his whole life to first Sugar Ray Robinson, but truly, he gave his whole life to Ali and training him. And I'll never forget that the phone calls got longer and longer and longer. The the times between phone calls for the next fight. And I didn't want that to happen to me. So I guess I've been planning that for my whole life. But retirement, like you said, people are dying. I don't think about dying ever. But I did hear in the Navy that a lot of, especially chiefs who did 30, 35 years out at sea, when they stopped going to sea, they died. I didn't think about that. I don't think about death right now. But retirement to me, believe it or not, Paul, was I can't get in trouble anymore. I know that sounds crazy, but I could get in trouble with my parents, then I could get in trouble in school, then I could get in trouble in the Navy, then I could get in trouble at FedEx, and you could always tell on me if I did something wrong. Well, right now, who the hell are you going to tell? Go tell Ghostbusters. So retirement to me was I am free of being penalized if I did anything wrong. How about that one?
Yeah, I would just conclude by for me, the retirement was really, really weird for the first year because all my life I had to be somewhere and I was taking, instructions. But it's like you said, all of a sudden I didn't have to be anywhere in particular anywhere. Nobody was monitoring me. I was kind of like free. You ever see like one of those dogs that was always barking at everybody and always barking when you pass by? Then you open up the gate and the dog doesn't know what to do. Doesn't attack anybody. It just freezes. I was kind of like that. I didn't have to worry about anything. I sure didn't worry about the weather. Didn't realize how much I worried about the weather, for the previous 40 years. It'd be storming and it's like, what? I'm not jump seat. I'm not flying. I'm going to bed. And that was a great, that was a great feeling. That stress relief was good.
Well, like you said, that weather thing is very true. As a pilot, that's you cared about that very much because that could be very disruptive in your flying. But retirement to me was one of the greatest days in my life. I love it. I love not being under pressure for doing anything. But I did find this out about getting old because I plan on living till 100 and then my bonus years will kick in. So that's how I'm working this. But the truth is, getting to that age, the things that I heard about is something called the Blue Zone. And the Blue Zone, it was a documentary. Anybody who wants to see it, it's an excellent documentary. But the Blue Zones are places all over the world where people live to 100 years old and beyond. And they all had four things in common. And this is very important. The first thing was, and it's your favorite word, Dr. Paul, it's move. They all moved their body, whether working out or walking up hills or no matter what they did, their body was in constant motion. The next thing they did is they ate right, they ate healthy. And believe it or not, poorer people in the mountains and everything who have to eat natural are actually eating a lot healthier than wealthy people who are stopping at 7-Eleven eating honey buns.
Oh, yeah.
So they move their body, they ate right. The third thing is that they had a small group of good friends and family, people that were in their inner circle. But the fourth thing, and I thought this was so important, they all had purpose. And Dr. Paul, believe it or not, in the beginning when I retired, I didn't have any purpose, just to have fun. But that's not purpose. My purpose now is to spread a good message through this podcast. We go to work 3 days a week to do this podcast, and that's enough working for me. But the 3 days that I put into this, that's my purpose in life right now because there's bad news everywhere all the time. But the truth is, there's good news. So I wanted to do a podcast that actually exemplified good news. We're two, I'm going to say young, we are. We're two young black jet pilots who actually made it in this world. And I figured that that means we know something that a lot of people didn't know. And my purpose is to spread this message. When I said I wanted to be rich and famous, one of the things is, they said black people that they should all get 40 acres and a mule. And I'm not bragging, but I am. Well, I retired with 20 acres and a Rolls Royce. Now,
Okay.
how about marriage? I was talking about that before. You've been married a long time, Dr. Paul. Can you give some advice on marriage? Give just a little bit of what kept you, because you have a good, happy family and a great marriage to Kim. Can you tell us, just give us some hints on what kept this marriage so great?
Yeah. Well, I'm hardly a Dr. Phil or an authority on the issue. But one of the things is I think for anybody, you have to be able to listen and not talk all the time and think about the other person. We kind of tend to get, into our feelings a lot and think you got to have your way. Everybody's got to be right, got to have the last word. I'm not a last word person. Maybe you need to listen to the last word before you say something and react. But yeah, I think you have to have a cooperative spirit. You've probably been around people, and I think we all have, where they're fighting and nagging all the time, and they live on that level. And I know people who lived on that level for decades, and they like it. I don't. Like life is too short. I think you have to try to get along and see what the other person is. For the most part, we agree on most things, and it's easy to have a partner. It's important to have a partner versus a competitor. So I don't accept this men versus women and this gender war nonsense I see all over the internet. You can make a lot of money with it too if you get a lot of views and people sponsor you. We're doing just the opposite. So it's not salacious and exploitive. It's more cooperative economics and goes to what my mother was saying about many hands make light work. Well, a couple together, working together, make lighter work than two working separate. So with you, in your case, tell me about you. What about your marriage experiences? Your experience is a little bit different than mine and perhaps a little deeper in some areas. So tell us more about yourself.
I don't know about deep, but I have been married longer than you. I've been married 45 years, except 22 was to my first wife, the mother of my children, and now 23 is to my wife now, Katrina. My first wife's name was Lori. And remember, you when we talked about our lives and going into the Navy and everything, I got married at a very young age. I got married as a senior in college, and I had my daughter Taryn, and then I got my son Drew. But my first years in marriage, I was a young, crazy man. And if you ask my son what the key to marriage is, he will say, "Don't cheat and don't leave." He told me that. I don't know why that popped up in my mind. But
Yeah.
on the facts in life, I have something in there that I put that says NCZA, and that's no competition, zero aggravation. And you just said that competition. The one person I don't want to ever compete with is my spouse. So when she does something good at work or something good happened to her during the day, I don't need to come back and say something better happened to me. The other thing is aggravation. You know, sometimes people can yang 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 yang, and that is aggravation, and aggravation sucks. So don't aggravate each other and don't compete with each other. And you also learn from your mistakes. My first marriage ended after 22 years. We put so much into our children that when they went off to college, we kind of were a little bit empty. And it wasn't a perfect marriage in the end. And it is what it is. I am so happy. I am now very friendly with my first wife, Lori. Matter of fact, she's in all of our family um, picnics and overnights and vacations. We all do this as one family. Her and my wife, Katrina, get along extremely well. Marriage to me, raising those two kids were one of the most important things in my life. And I used to tell you that my father was a great father, and not because he was great in everything he did, but some of the things that he did weren't good. And I made sure that I didn't do that to my children. Another thing is you have to communicate. You have to communicate and you have to have compassion. And winning an argument is not winning an argument. You're not winning. Anytime you win an argument against someone you love and you put them down because they were wrong, you didn't really win. Being mean to the people you love is not winning at all, Paul. All
Right,
right.
I agree.
You
I
have something that, and I have, and this is one of the greatest gifts in life, grandchildren. Tell me about your great experience with having a grandchild.
Well, that's an interesting experience. But I see interesting a lot. It really is. It's evolving as we speak, but it's different when you're looking at another generation coming up. And I can kind of see things I wish I'd sort of done before with the previous crew, which I did more. I did quite a bit actually. And with this one, I'm thinking like, okay, everything that I kind of missed, not going to miss here. I'm going to have an input. At the same time, you have to realize as a grandparent, that's not your child, 100%. This is your child's child, and that you're not. You shouldn't. I don't think you should be in a takeover position. I want to be more of an advisor, maybe serious advice, maybe cautionary advice, but an advisor based on experience I didn't have before having children. So it's a little bit easier now in some ways to kind of take a 30,000-foot view and see what's going on and what can happen and things you need to look after. As people told me, older people, decades ago, hey, take a look at this, take a look at that, and things, oh, that's not a big deal. Well, it may be a big deal. Look at it closely. Turned out, they were right. Now I can kind of do the same thing. So I'm trying to provide guidance and just position, oh, not position, but information just from an older standpoint. So we get out, we play, we move. He's going to camp, he's doing other things. He's fun to be around, very, very, very lively. And I think that keeps you young too, because you got to keep up with him to the extent that you can. I can't move as fast as he does. So that's out. But I can still move. And then that's the importance of staying physically fit. How about you and your grandkids? I know you have more than one. I have one, but you have multiple.
I have 3 grandchildren. I have Angel, who's my oldest, and I have Drew the 5th, and I have Nori Z, the prettiest grandchildren, the prettiest kids in the world. I want a grandkid so bad. Now, my children didn't get married and they didn't have children until they were older. And for a long time, I'm not kidding, this is crazy. But I thought that the world was going to come to an end. And that's why God didn't give me grandchildren, because in a couple of generations, my grandchildren wouldn't have to die. It's crazy to think that way, but I couldn't see any other reason why I didn't have grandchildren. Well, I got news for the world. It's not going to be over because now I have grandchildren. And it is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me right now in my life. I also realized why my grandparents loved me so much. I couldn't understand. They loved me to death. And I just couldn't understand why I was so special to them until I had grandchildren. My grandchildren are the greatest thing that I have right now. And remember those 20 acres I told you about? Well,
Yeah.
I'm making that Papa Drew's camp because I want my grandchildren to come here and have fun and camp and do everything right here at Papa Drew's house. My grandchildren are such a blessing to me. God bless them. All right, Paul, real quick, tell me what you think about doing your podcast, The Wingman Show. Give me what your goals are in this show, and just tell me a little bit about this process that we went through to do the Wingman Show.
Well, the goals now actually are to be a good show, to be a not so much performative, but to give out good information to people who might not get it otherwise. Uh, it's been quite a transition, knowing nothing about I'd say the entertainment world, the podcasting world. We had to learn stuff from our good friend Matthew Bivens, who got us started. We didn't know A from B. He helped us set up. So basically, I think it kept our brains younger too, because you had to learn a lot of new stuff. And then the challenge of, okay, what are you going to talk about? How are you going to talk about it? How you put the show together? And you put things together very, very well. The sequence of the show, the titles, and we work together. And it requires a certain amount of teamwork too. So my goal is to keep putting out good quality content, as they say. I say content, all the podcast people. Something you worth saying, not just the repetition of the usual garbage that I say garbage, but the usual bad news that everybody says. They all say the same thing and they have different versions of it. And I think if you look at our show, nobody's covering what we do in 30 minutes, not the way we do it.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, my daughter kept telling me, "You should have a radio show. You should have a radio show. You should have a radio show." And I was telling her that's just not so easy. I spoke to children and the grown-ups, and I was a professional speaker for over 30 years. And there was a lot of knowledge that I had because of my time on planet that I continued to want to give to people. But I really wasn't into going out and speaking anymore. And so I came up with this idea of something called the Wingman Show. And it's really important because a wingman is somebody you can count on. And in life, you always need somebody you can count on. Another thing is people talk about bad stuff all the time. Why? When there's so many good things happening, it's because good things don't have a lot of notoriety. Well, I wanted to change that, and I needed a good wingman. And I figured I could ask my good friend, Dr. Paul Thompson, to do the show with me. And that's how the Wingman Show started. And I know God is in this because I remember us getting wingmenshow.com, our website, and it was actually open. So doing this podcast is my purpose. I love doing this podcast with you, Paul, and I love dispensing good news because there is goodness out there, and good will overcome evil. For everybody out there, check out those badass jets we got behind us. Behind Dr. Paul is his jet, the A7 Corsair. Now, I always thought that Dr. Paul wasn't that smart because he flew a one-engine jet over the ocean in the middle of the night. My jet, the A6 Intruder, at least had 2 engines, and that's kind of a joke, but it's so true. What we've done is incredible, and that picture behind me is an A6 Intruder. I want to thank everybody for listening and watching us, listening to us on Apple Podcasts, watching us on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. Thank you so much for your letters and for your love and for your support. We do have that website, and it's called wingmenshow.com. That's WINGMEN show.com. And on that website, there's a couple of things. First of all, it's called the frequent flow line. That means you can write us. You can ask us a question, and Dr. Paul and myself will try to answer it and try to get to your questions. The second thing is we do a newsletter, and a great newsletter this week is going to say how to discover your hidden talents and passions. It's going to be a great newsletter. All right, Dr. Paul, we have a part in our show called The Gouge. And the gouge in the Navy, it's shit you need to know, but sometimes nobody tells you. Well, the gouge this week is something very important. I came up with the saying, education plus hard work minus drugs equals success in the American dream. Dr. Paul, why don't you give me what your thoughts are about success and the American dream?
I agree. The education, well, the education, again, everything starts with education. You notice that? There's a constant trend there. Yes, to have the dream, have a positive dream. You want to do well in life. People want to do well, and there are challenging times ahead for sure. But you can't just give up. In order to have that dream, it's good to have a dream, but you got to have an action plan. American dream or any dream, you gotta have an action plan. You can dream all the time. I'd love to play for the New York Knicks, but that dream's not going to happen. That's not realistic. So look at what you really want to accomplish in life and start planning a pathway and some steps on how are you going to get there. If you're not sure how you're going to get there, find someone that's already there and just copy what they do. That's a good way to start. You've got to basically get started. Don't dream, but don't dream too much. Work more than you dream. Come out of fantasy island and get to work. And the basic way to get to work, you're going to have to start with some education and training. You got to put the work in.
Well, my thought of success, I have this on my 11 Facts in Life. Success is waking up every day, doing something you love and doing it well. So that's a great definition for success. But how in the hell do you get successful? Well, that's why I came up with my 11 Facts in Life that you can get on our website. You can also get that on drewbrown.net. But I came up with the 11 Facts in Life because there has to be a plan, like Dr. Paul said, in order to achieve your dream. I said the American dream because this is the greatest country in the world. No matter what you see, no matter what's going on today, it's still the greatest country in the world because there were a lot of great people here who fought for this one word, and it's called freedom. Now, we all don't have as much freedom as we should, but in this country, it's so much better than any other country in the world. And all you have to do is travel a little bit to see that. But I am a Black Jewish man who made it. My mother's white, my father's black. I am blessed. I am a zebra, and I'm blessed because I realize there's no difference between black and white. It's ignorance and intelligence, success and the American dream. It is achievable, but you have to have a plan. And one of the plans on those 11 Facts in Life is just like you said, Dr. Paul, and it's actually number 5 on the 11 Facts in Life, and it's the art of thought, the art of communication, and most importantly, the art of action. Because a lot of people think and a lot of people talk, it's doing what really counts. That's what counts. All right, we've come to this part of our show, which is the most important part for me today, and it's called Wingmen. Who are your wingmen? Dr. Paul, why don't you tell us who your wingmen in life were?
Ultimately, my wingmen are my parents, my mother and father. Those are the primary ones. And other wingmen, I guess it would be everybody else, all those who supported me, of advisors, teachers, coaches, different things. It all worked out very well. Sometimes in that learning process was very, very tough, but also very, very necessary. I still lean on the teachings they gave me decades ago, and I try to pass them on. I try to embody them myself. and to become better. But my major wingmen are my parents and the parents of other friends who basically kind of raised us all together. Everybody was on the same accord, and I'm appreciative. I look back now and realize how blessed I actually was. Didn't realize it at the time, but I do now as a much older person. Yes, yes, yeah. Tell us about your wingman.
Well, my wingmen are named the Fantastic Four. And that's because there were four very important people in my life: my mother, my father, my grandmother, and my grandfather. And my grandmother's name was Bubba, and my grandfather was Papa Jack. They were so important to me. But I must say this: I talk about my father a lot on this show because of his notoriety with Muhammad Ali, his notoriety with being a very spiritual and very smart man. But I got to tell you, my real wingman is my mother, Rhoda Palestine Brown. She is the reason that I am like I am today. Yes, my father had that first too, the dreams and the communication, but my mother made all this be put into action. My mother, Rhoda, was the greatest mom in the world. Now, growing up, I thought I had a very dysfunctional family, but in reality, I had the greatest family in the world. When I was in Brighton Beach, there was this area called Manhattan Beach, which is a very wealthy white Jewish area. And I had a friend, and I remember going over this friend's house, and he had the perfect mom, the perfect dad, the perfect brother, the perfect sister. And I remember going into their pantry, and they had 5 or 6 ketchups lined up. I didn't live like that. They also had a maid, and the maid was a caretaker, more than just a maid. She took care of the kids, raised the kids, and took care of the house. I had none of that. I thought that I wanted a television family. Well, tragedy happened in that family, and the mother died early. The father actually left his kids and started a new life. I didn't have a family like that. My family was all about love. And the reason that I am who I am is because they raised me not to be just as good as anybody else, but to be better. And that's how I thought. I didn't have 2 strikes by being black and Jewish. I didn't have 2 strikes against me. I thought I had 2 runs in the beginning of the first. That's how I felt. That's how I was raised. Thank you all, everybody here who has listened to our show. And let me just say this: anything that you think is important, anything that you think is beautiful, and especially anything that makes you happy, may you have that today and forever. I pray for peace.
I pray for peace too, Commander Drew, and it's been good talking to you during this series here. Who are the wingmen? Who in the hell are the wingmen anyway? Going down memory lane. And we appreciate all those who listen, like, and share our message. And we're happy to share a little bit of our past with you. Hopefully, this inspires some. Uh, if you can, we would appreciate it if you'd help the algorithm and give us a like if you're looking on YouTube. If it's a podcast, a 5-star review would be appreciated. It would help. But we look forward to staying in touch with you and giving you more good information about the good things in life and the possibilities that lie ahead.
And P.S., I want to thank Brandon from Mystic Digital Agency, who does our marketing, because Dr. Paul and I don't do much social media, but we're all over social media because of our guy, Brandon. Thank you so much. God bless.
God bless.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and refer to use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.